Hey guys, welcome back to the next episode in the Training Remote Builders Kit tutorial series. We just applied our base coat of primer. It is now dry. All right, so let's take a quick inventory of everything we're gonna need for this step. You will need super glue. You need a fine tip Sharpie. You need an X-Acto knife with a fresh blade. Your couple of pieces off of your 3D printed parts, flush cutting shears or snips. You're also going to need from your machine cut styrene sheet this guide. This is a custom jig to help position the first round of pieces. You will need to punch out carefully the sets of 3 trapezoids. There should be 8 of them. Keep them together in groups of 3. These are cut on purpose this way so that you can position them and space them 100% correct every single time, and then you'll just cut the spine off after the fact. So when you pull these off, keep them in groups of 3 just like this, okay? Also, you want to remove the 8 rectangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 rectangles, 8 sets of 3 trapezoids, and this guide. So here we go. And this cutting guide, go ahead and pop off all the little shapes and the holes. For the holes, you can use an X-Acto knife to kind of just punch those out. Okay. Okay, now that you've got these styrene pieces punched out, let's take a quick inventory of what we're going to need. So on your 3D printed parts, they come in 4 sections. This first section here, let's kind of go over these parts. These are, I believe, what's known as the gun ports. There's 8 of them. They go on the tops and bottoms. These are the tank track pieces. There's 4 on each end, 4 on each pole, 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. These are the hatch covers. There are 8 of these total. All 8 of them go on the top. There are none of these on the bottom half of the remote. That's one of the common misconceptions, is that the parts are the same on both hemispheres. They're significantly different in terms of these are only on the top, and then there's some other parts that are on the bottom half that are different from the top. These 2 pieces here are part of your custom jigs to help you line everything up. And then these 2 small rings here, you only need 1 of them. It's just for the top to kind of mimic the plastrut sphere, which is where, I guess it's part of the injection molded process. There's a little circle with 4 dots, and it's got a little ring on the top. So this is part of that to help recreate the look of that. And then over here you've got, I believe on the original model, they're called baffles. The undersides of them are kind of a cone shape. That isn't necessary, so these are just solid pieces. They're flat on the bottom to help you attach them easier. So they look correct on the outside, but they're different on underneath. So that's the part names: gun ports, tank tracks, hatches, the little top rings, and baffles. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is take the smaller of the 2 drum looking shape here with the little pegs on the top of them. We're going to take the smaller of the 2, and we're going to attach it to the styrene jig that we cut out. So when you're getting these things off, it's kind of better if you twist them. It kind of loosens up the support material. You don't need to do any cleaning or anything because this is just used as a tool. But you're going to take the smaller of the 2, and you're going to take this styrene piece here, and you'll see down at the bottom of this there is a circular shape that matches the diameter of this thing. You're gonna push this little pin right in through this hole here and snap it down. If you need to use like an X-Acto knife or something like that to kind of push it down flush, go right ahead. Just like that. So you want to be careful when you're pushing down on this. Don't squeeze too hard. You don't want to crack this. This is, yeah, I mean, it's kind of sturdy, but don't push really hard on it. If you need to wall out the hole a little bit to get it to snap in there, some of them might do that, but I try to make it to where it's a snug fit, but easy to get on. So this is what you need in order to line your pieces up. And the way this is going to work is if I take these first few pieces and you're going to use your snips to separate these, snip your tank tracks off. And if you have one of these rubber mats, I highly recommend them. It makes it really easy to just lay the piece down there, push your finger on it, kind of drag it back and forth. This textured grip material very easily knocks off the little support nubs to make it sit flush. So you need a tank track piece, and you need a baffle. That's the kind of tapered circle area. And you need a set of 3 trapezoids. And then you have an option. You can do the gun ports now, or you can do them later. Let's talk about why there's an option here. The gun ports, these little pieces here with the little window that was part of the tank model, where there's a little rifle that sticks out of the front of the tank. These are gray on the finished training remote, and they have some weathering, kind of lighter gray where the paint's rubbed away, splotches on them. You can go ahead and glue these on now and paint everything, and then when you paint it white, these will become white, and then you can go back over and hand paint them black or dark gray if you want, or you can leave them off since the pieces are already gray, almost pretty much the right color. Leave them off now, and then at a later step you could just glue them on and you don't have to paint them. The only drawback to that is there's a slight tiny bit of an accuracy issue here, in that on the real remote, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but if you're looking at these pieces up close, there's a tiny ringed lip on the bottom of this piece. On the real remote, that little ring is white and the top is black or gray. So putting it on now, priming it and then painting it white, and then hand painting the top of it, and then knocking some of the paint off so that some of the lighter paint shows through, is going to be slightly more accurate than gluing this on later and then putting some light gray weathering on it. And the only difference in that accuracy is that this tiny little side ring is white. Because I've done so many of these, I've kind of developed my process to be a little bit more easy to get through. So I put these on last. I sacrificed that tiny bit of accuracy for having that white ring at the bottom, and I just put them on because they're already the right color, and then I do a little bit of a gray weathering on them as I'm painting the trapezoids, and it looks 99% exactly the same, and it's just way easier. So I'll leave that up to you, but I'm going to show you both ways so that you can make a decision. So the way this jig works is you will put this peg, or put this little cylinder, in the smaller hole on your remote, point this up towards the north pole of the remote, and then the way these holes are cut out shows you where the pieces go. So right here at the top, this tank track piece goes, And then there is a small half circle here. That's where the baffle goes. This larger cutout here is where the gun port goes if you want to do it now. I don't, but if you want to, you can. And this bottom section here is where the set of 3 trapezoids goes. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get a better shot of that. So that's kind of the point of the custom jig, is to help you line up these key pieces. Everything else on the top half will line up from those by hand, which is very easy. So again, tank track piece, then the baffle, then the gun port, and then the set of 3 trapezoids. I particularly don't like to do the gun ports now because it's so much easier to put them on as they are already gray, weather them, instead of trying to hand paint them and risk getting paint everywhere on your finished remote. Okay, so this is kind of the basic layout of how these parts are going to go. So in just a second, I'm going to switch a camera angle and start working on it so that you can see how it goes on. All right, so we're going to start with the top half of the remote. So you're going to use this jig and place this circle inside of the smaller circle where the hatches go, and you are going to rotate this up towards the top of the ball. You will notice that there is a hole punched in the top of the ball. Do not use that hole as some kind of a reference guide of what is perfect center. When the manufacturing process of these holes, they kind of just haphazardly punch these. Some of them do end up being right on the middle, but a lot of them don't. So don't use this hole as your true north pull for the ball. What you want to do is kind of rotate the ball back and look at your eye line of the horizon and line it up with, centered in between these two, and line it up with this one that's exactly the opposite side of the ball. If you put it over here, or if you put it over here, it's not quite right. So as you rock it back, look up and down and hold it up in front of your eyes so that you can see exactly where the center point between these two are, and that will help you get the right position. If you want to use a fine tip marker at this point to mark that hole, that will tell you where you're at. Okay, so there's that one. I would then immediately flip it 180 degrees and do the same thing. Line it up. Basically what you're trying to do is find kind of all of your center points. Once you've done that one, then you do the other two. So look it up, put it in this hole, rock it back, find your halfway point between these two, which aligns perfectly with the center of this one. Mark your hole. Okay, this is just kind of gives you some reference points of where things go. And then do the same thing with the fourth one, okay? So now that you've got everything marked and you know what's lined up, it's time to start putting some pieces on. So I'm gonna probably stop the video here and go to the next section, just because I don't want this to get too long, because the simple version is you start gluing pieces on, but there's a lot to it in terms of the best size of glue drip, which way these tracks face, because some of them go this way, some of them go this way. So I would like to cover all that in detail so that you can get it as accurate as possible if you want. So we'll pick up on the next video.